All right, so we'll say good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is Kuf Tes 109. 109, and we are picking up on 109 at the Mishnah. So we'll say, here we go. Says the Gemara, really beautiful sugya ahead of us today. Echad Kachim. So remember, we're still in the riveting discussion regarding Shchutei Chutz. Shechting Karban. Whoever thought that there was so much to talk about Shchutei Chutz? It's such a pleasant surprise, Baruch Hashem, to see that. And there's more. There's plenty more where this came from. You're going to see. So it says in the Mishnah, Echad Kachim Ksherim, Ve'echad Kachim Psulim, Shahaya Pisulim Bakodesh. So we'll say, whether you're talking about kosher karbanos which are fit, Kachim Psulim, we'll say invalid karbanos, Shahaya Pisulim Bakodesh. But when we speak about invalid karbanos, we'll say this means they were valid and they became pasul bakodesh. Look at Rashi, tap Rashi on the daf. Hoyel ubifnim im alu lo yardu miskabel bifnim karina bevechayafen ala bachotz kelat v'yomar. We'll say, so we're going to see, by the way, that in order for a karban to be subject to the laws of shchutei chutz, of the prohibition of shedding it outside, it has to be technically a karban which would be fit to be offered up inside. In other words, if it's pasul on the inside already, then there is no biblical prohibition to offer it up on the outside. However, with one important caveat, if you have a karban which is pasul to be offered up on the inside, remember we spoke about the idea that certain karbanos, even though they are pasul, im alu lo yerdu. If you did inadvertently put it on the mizbeach, then what? You do not take it down. Such a karban like that is subject to the law of im alu lo yardu, ultimately again is subject to the laws of shchutei chutz. That's what it means. So we'll say if you have a karban that is now pasul, it's not to be offered up, but pisulim hakodesh, it had some type of a validating event that happened inside the Beis Hamikdash, which then means that if you did inadvertently put it on the mizbeach, you could leave it there. If you offered that karban outside of the Beis Hamikdash, one would be chayiv. The krivan b'chutz, and you offered up these karbanos outside of the Beis Hamikdash, chayiv. One is chayiv. Last in the Mishnah, Hama'ale kizayis min ha'ola u'min ha'imurin b'chutz chayiv. We'll say if one offers up a kizayis, now remember we saw this already yesterday or 2 days ago, that halacha l'maisa, in order to be chayiv for shchutei chutz, you have to offer up at least a kizayis of sacrificial matter. I call it matter. Why? Because remember again, there's a machlokes. Does it have to be meat? Can it be meat in the bone? Could it be the head of the yonah and the salt? So we'll call it sacrificial matter. Now what the Mishnah is introducing to me is as follows, that if I go ahead and I offer up a kizayis, but the kizayis is made up of the meat of the olah and a murin. I both say a murin means sacrificial parts, so it has part of these flesh of the animal and sacrificial parts, one will be chayiv. Rashi says, Hama'ale kizayis min ha'olah u'meireh, chatzi zayis mizeh, v'chatzi zayis mizeh, chayiv, dekule kol. So we'll say in this case of the olah, we will see that the half a kizayis of the flesh and half a kizayis of the sacrificial parts that are normally burned on the mizbeach combined to form the shear for shchutei chutz. Beautiful. Tan Rabbanan, Asher Ya'ala. So let's remember again, the pasuk says Asher Ya'ala. So remember, this is a section talking about the psukim over to about shchutei chutz. So just to give you the context is Va'aleim Tomar Ish mi beis Yisrael min hager asher yagur b'socham Asher Ya'ala Ola Ozavach. Okay, if you offer up a karban, so the Gemara says, the Torah says, "Ve'al Pesach o al moed lo yavi'enu so v'nichras ha'ishahu me'amav." So we'll say, offering up a karban outside of the Beis Hamikdash carries with it a penalty of kares. So the pasuk says, "Asher Ya'ala." What does that come to include in the prohibition of shchutei chutz? So the Gemara says, "Ola Asher Ya'ala, Ola o zavach." So we'll say the pasuk says if you offer up an ola or a zevach outside of the Beis Hamikdash, ainly ela ola. So we'll say I only know that an ola is subject to the laws of shchutei chutz. So the Gemara says, "Minayim the rabos emuri asham." How do I know to include the sacrificial parts of an asham? Emure chatos, the sacrificial parts of a chatos. Emure kachei kadoshim, sacrificial parts of kachei kadoshim. Emure kachim kalim, the sacrificial parts of kachim kalim. How do I know? So we'll say, so the pasuk only talks about ola in the context of shchutei chutz. How do I know that the prohibition of shchutei chutz applies to all these other karbanos as well? Talmud lomar zavach. Therefore the Gemara says, the pasuk says, Asher Ya'ala Ola O Zavach. Ola is Ola, and Zavach Abosai is any other type of sacrificial item. Zavach. So I says the Gemara, I am the Rabbos. So we'll say, so now I understand that all animal offerings are subject to the laws of shchutei chutz. What about minayin l'rabos? We'll say, what about non-animal sacrificial items? For example, minayin l'rabos hakometz. We'll say, how do I know that the kometz, which is the three fingerfuls of flour, is also subject to shchutei chutz. In other words, cannot be offered up outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Levona, we'll say that's the frankincense. Kitoras, incense. Minchas kohanim or minchas kohen Mashiach. We'll say the minchas kohanim. Remember again, the mincha of a kohen is totally consumed on the mizbeach. It is not eaten by the kohanim. Minchas kohen Mashiach. So I'll say ultimately again, that's the special carbon that is brought by the kohen gadol every single day. Minchas kohen Mashiach. V'haminasech shloshes lugin yayin. Or I will say, if one were to go ahead and pour 3 lugin of wine as a wine libation. Now Rashi just points out over here that shloshes lugin yain Rashi shehu pachos bin shebin esachim. So apparently the smallest wine libation is made up of 3 lugin of wine, or shloshes lugin mayim, or I will say ultimately again 3 lugin of water, which is the amount of water used for what? For niso chamayim on Sukkis, like Rashi says. Shloshes lugin mayim Rashi bechag kamar. Fine. So we'll say, so now what the Gemara asks is, from the word zavach, I understand that the prohibition of shchutei chutz applies to all what we'll call animal karbanos. We'll say, what about non-animal sacrifices? So how do I know that the prohibition of shchutei chutz applies to these items as well? Talmud lomar ve'al pesach oel moed lo yivienu. We'll say, therefore the pasuk says, and to the entranceway of the oel moed he has not brought it. What do we learn from here? The Pesach Oel Moed Chayavin Alav B'chutz. We'll say anything that is technically brought, ultimately again to the entrance of the Oel Moed. In other words, anything that is supposed to be done inside the Beis Hamikdash, if you do it outside, you will be chayiv. Ve'einli ela kachim ksherim. So we'll say furthermore, I only know what? I only know that halacha l'maisa. This applies to sacrificial items which are kosher. Minayin l'rabos psulim. We'll say, from where do I know that it even applies ultimately again to a sacrificial item which is possible? Now look at Rashi for just a moment. I will say, now what does this mean? This goes against what we just said before. We just said before that something is only subject to the prohibition of shchutei chutz if it could be offered up outside. What does it mean that even if it's puzzle, it's subject to shchutei chutz? So again, look at Rashi. Minayin l'rabos psulim hanachtim alu lo yerdu. So we'll say what this means is as follows. When we say that psulin are subject to shchutei chutz, what type of psulin? The type of psulin ultimately again that even though they're puzzle, if they were to be offered up on the mizbeach, they would not be taken down. So how do I know that even something like that, which is puzzle cannot be offered, but if it was put on the mizbeach, you would not take it down? How do I know that such an object, or such an item, I should say, is subject to shchutei chutz? Minayin l'rabos psulin. Kigon, what are examples of this? Kigon, halon. I will say lon is a carbon that remains overnight. Hayotze, a carbon that is accidentally taken outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Tameh, a carbon that becomes tameh. Shenishchat chutz lizmano, a carbon that is ejected outside of its prescribed time, v'chutz limkomo, and outside of its prescribed place. V'shekiblo psulin, v'zarko es damo, or kabbalah was done by someone who's puzzle and the blood was sprinkled. V'anitanlin lamata, shenasna lamala, or we'll say an offering whose blood is supposed to be sprinkled below the chut sikra, below the red line, but was sprinkled above. Or v'hanitanin lamala, shenasna lamata, or a carbon whose blood was supposed to be placed above the red line, but was placed below the red line. Or v'hanitanin b'chutz shenaslan bifnim, or the blood application is supposed to be done outside, but it was done inside. Or v'hanitanin bifnim shenaslan b'chutz, or the blood application was done inside, supposed to be done outside. Upesach, or a carbon pesach v'chata shenaslan shelo l'shman, right? Or ultimately again a carbon pesach or a chatas which was shechted shelo l'shman. Minayin. Bosei, how do I know that all of these items are subject to shchutei chutz? As I will say, these are all examples of sacrificial items which are puzzle. Now the common denominator amongst all of these items is that even though they are puzzle, if they were inadvertently put on the mizbeach, what's the halacha? You leave them on. So how do I know that these objects are also, or these items are also subject to the laws of shchutei chutz? Talmud lomar lo yivienu la'asos. So we'll say, therefore, the pasuk says, this is Val Pesach or Moed Lo Yivienu Lasos. If you did not bring it ultimately again to the Beis Hamikdash to be done, what do we darshan from there? Kol Miskabel BePesach or Moed Chayavin Alav B'chutz. We'll say anything ultimately again which could be accepted inside the Ohel Moed, you're a chayav for shchutei chutz. And therefore, we'll say since these items technically could be accepted in the Ohel Moed. In other words, even though they are puzzle, im alu lo yerdu, therefore halacha l'maaseh they are subject to the laws of shchutei chutz. And I will say this is indeed how the Rambam paskins. So the Rambam says this is in. Actually, this is only the first part of the halacha. We'll come back to the psul. But the Rambam says this is in Hilchos Maseh HaKarbanos Parak Yutes Halacha Beis. Eino chayiv ela al ha'alos davar haroi li'ishur l'mizbeach. So we'll say you're only chayiv. This is actually an important principle. One is only chayiv for shchutei chutz, for something that is fit for the fires and the mizbeach. Kigon ha'ola shnemar shayala ola ozavach ma'ola sheruya li'ishim af kosher li'ishim hu shechayev alasa b'chutz. So we'll say only if something is technically fit for the Mizbeach is a subject of Shchutei Chutz. Now that teaches us two things. That teaches us, again, first of all, it applies to any type of carbon, right? That's number one. Number two, based on the phrase Val Pesach or Amoid, it teaches us anything that is done inside the Beis HaMikdash. And number three, I will say, what it teaches us is that even an item which at the end of the day is puzzle, if halacha l'maaseh im alu lo yerdu, it also will be subject to the laws of shchutei chutz. Good. Weiter. So the Gemara says as follows: Hamalek kizayis min olos. Remember again, the Mishnah said that if you go ahead and you offer up a kizayis of the olah, but remember again, it's a half a kizayis of the meat of the karban, and a half a kizayis of the sacrificial part, normally burned. So that's hamalek kizayis min olah min ha'imurin b'chutz chayiv. So the Gemara says, interesting that the Mishnah chooses Ola for this example. Ola ve'emureha in, shlama ve'emureha lo. Also, we can infer from this that what? This din. So we'll say, so remember, here, what do we know? What we know is that in order to be chayav for shchutei chutz, how much carbon do you have to offer out outside of the Beis HaMikdash? A kizayis. The novelty of the Mishnah is that what? Is that kizayis could be made up of different sacrificial parts. So for example, the Mishnah's case is I have a half a kizayis of the meat, the flesh of the olah, and a half a kizayis of the imur. We'll say imurin are like the fats or whatever else is normally burnt up on the mizbeach as part of the carbon. So if I have a half a kizayis of meat, of flesh, and a half a kizayis of imurin, that comes together, that forms together ultimately again the kizayis to make me chayiv for shchutei chutz. So the Gemara points out an interesting idea. The Mishnah illustrates this with the example of Ola, which sounds like this applies to Ola, but might not apply to Shlamim. Ola ve'emure'in, Shlamim ve'emure'in lo. So why not? What would be the difference if we're about to say? So look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says, Shlamim lo, ein b'sar mitztarif emure'in, lekizayis halos chutz, mishum de basar Shlamim lav bar haktarahu, v'lo karinan be al pesach ola moed lo yivena. So listen to this. What's the chilik between the shlamim and the ola? I'll say a very simple distinction. Ola is totally burnt on the mizbeach. Shlamim is not. The sacrificial parts of the shlamim are, but the meat is consumed. So what the Gemara is pointing out is something very interesting. That it could very well be that for purposes of shchutei chutz, when it comes to an ola, so a half a kizayis ultimately again of half a kizayis of the meat and a half a kizayis of the sacrificial parts can combine together. Why? Because they all share the same halacha, namely that what? They're all burnt. Masha'inkein, as opposed to when it comes to shlam rabosai, that perhaps a half a kizayis of meat and a half a kizayis of emurin cannot combine. Why not? Because they have two different halachos. The half a kizayis of meat is not subject to being burnt on the mizbeach. The half a kizayis ultimately again of the emurin is. So that's what the Gemara suggests over here. Ola ve'emurein, shlam ve'emurein lo. Tanino lahad tanrabon, and I will say we have a brayso that supports this idea. Ola ve'imureha mitztarfin lekizayis la losan b'chutz. We'll say in ola, meaning its meat and its sacrificial parts, could combine to form a kizayis to make you chayiv for shchutei chutz. Ulechayiv alen mishum pigul nosar v'tamei. And also again could be mitztarif because we also need a kizayis for these other things also to make you chayiv because of pigul, nosar, and tamei. So the Gemara says, okay. Bishlam halas ola de kalil in shlamim lo. So I understand why this halacha, when it comes to shchutei chutz, works by ola but doesn't work by shlamim. Because as we just said, I understand why half a kizayis of shlamim meat cannot combine with the half a kizayis of shlamim sacrificial parts to create the kizayis of chiyuv for shchutei chutz. Why? Because each of those half kizayis, I will say, by shlamim have different halachos. I understand, therefore they can't combine. However, again, ela pigol the no sar v'tamei my timer. But also when it comes to pigol, no sir and tamei. So we'll say why can't now we'll say remember again, for all of these items which we learned about extensively, pigol, no sir and tamei, so ultimately why can't the two half kizesim, half a kizayis of meat and half a kizayis of sacrificial parts by the shlamim, why can't that form together the kizayis to make you chayiv for pigol, no sir and tamei? To which the Gemara says v'hotanan Kala pigul and mitzarfi. And we learned explicitly that when it comes to pigul, say all different types of pigul, right, could combine to form the shear. The chala nosar mitzarfin, and I will say all different types of nosar also combines together to make you chayiv. So why would we say that by shlamim a half a kizayis of basar and a half a kizayis of emurin would not combine together? Kasha pigul pigul kasha nosar. And also we'll say it's the fundamental shayla. Pigul kasha and pigul kasha nosar. To which the Gemara says no, it's not a kasha. Pigol pigol kasha. We'll say it's not a contradiction. How so? Kan be pigol, kan be machshavas pigol. We'll say look at Rashi. First wide line, not the widest lines, but the intermediate wide lines. So it says the Gemara is two different cases. One is pigol, one is machshavas pigol. What is we'll say look at Rashi. Hadik tani mitztarfim. When the Brisa said before that different kizesim, half a kizayis of this pigol and half a kizayis of that pigol come together to form a kizayis, that is ba'ochel pigol kamar ules chayiv chatos. So we'll say, inachinami, if you eat a half a kizayis of pigul from the meat and a half a kizayis of the pigul from the sacrificial part of the shlamim, you will be chayiv for consumption of pigul. That is absolutely true. V'hadik tani ola in, I'm reading the rest of Rashi, v'hadik tani ola in, shlamim lo, but also when the Brisa said that two half kizayisim do not combine by ola, but do combine by ola, but don't apply by shlamim for pigul purposes. Lo b'machshavas pigul. I'm sorry. B'machshavas pigul. Shimshachat ozarak almanas lahaktir chatzi zayis basar ola. The chatzi zayis meimurin chutz lizmano pigul. Aval b'shlamim chishev lechol o lahaktir chatzi zayis basar. The chatzi zayis emurin lo pigul. She'ein machshavas achila b'niktarin ve'ein machshavas haktar b'nechal. We'll say this is actually so dramatically amazing. The Gemara just says, what's pigul? Pigul is when I have an erroneous mindset to go ahead and eat the carbon after its prescribed time. So we'll say, so watch this. What the Gemara is suggesting is as follows. Let's take shlamim for just a moment. If I eat a half a kizayis of pigul from the meat and a half a kizayis of pigul from the sacrificial parts, those two half kizayisim come together, they combine to form a kizayis of prohibited food stuff, right? And therefore again I will be chayiv. But listen to this. Let's say I have kavana, I have pigul kavana. What means? Let's say I have kavana to burn the meat 3 days from now, and I have that kavana for a half a piece of meat of the sacrificial part and a half a piece of meat of the consumption part. But let's say so. The problem when it comes to shlam, the Gemara says, is because those two pieces of meat have different halachos. Because they have different halachos, one is to be bizbay shlamim, one is to be burned, one is to be consumed. Therefore, what? The machshavas pigul is not mitzdarif them. They do not combine. So when it comes to consumption, ein achinami half a kizayis, right, of meat from a shlamim that is consumed, and half a kizayis from the imurin will actually combine in a state of consumption. When it comes to machshavas pigul, Rabosai, the only way that machshavas pigul could be mitzdarif is if the two pieces of meat, the two have kizesim, the two have machshavas pigul on, have the same halacha. But if they have two different halachas, like in the case of shlamim, where one is going to be burned, one is going to be consumed, in that case, they do not combine. No sar, no sar lokasha. But say similarly again, no sar. There's no contradiction in the cases of no sar. How so? Kan benosar, kan benosar, kan bishenisosru achlo nizrak hadam. Well, this is actually a very interesting case. One is talking about an actual case of nosar, and one is talking about a case of where there was nosar before the blood was sprinkled. Now, what does this mean? Take a quick look at this Rashi. We'll say incredible Rashi. Kan benosar, kan b'shenosru achlon nizrak adam. Rashi is hodik tani mitztarfin ba'ochal nosar kamar. Ein achinami will say that when the Brisa said that even two kizesim from a shlamim one of the meat and one of the sacrificial parts could combine, that's talking about when you're actually eating nosar. So if you're actually consuming nosar, so the two have kizesim, even though they come from different parts of the carbon, one part which is consumed, one part which is burned, those could combine. Now watch this. Vadik tani ola in shlamim lo. But we'll say, when do we say that nosar does not combine by shlamim? So the Gemara says, Bisheni sosru me'ibot usrefa kigon avdu abasar v'ayimur and kodin zrika. Listen to this, we'll say. So talking about the following case. Let's say you lost some of the shlamim meat prior to zrika. You just lost it. V'nishtayr chatzi zayis mizeh v'chatzi zayis mizeh ba'ola dekula kalil havya zrikas dam zrika. So we'll say, listen to this case. In the case of an ola, some of the sacrificial meat was lost. And then what happens? They went ahead, so it was lost. They did the zrika. So we'll say, so the zrika works for that meat. In other words, we'll see what that means. The zrika essentially is a valid zrika, and the meat that was lost has the status of sacrificial meat. Da'ika achilas mizbeach u'krab yushodar and beparak tvul yom imein basar indam v'chevon dezrika hi chayavan la mishum nosar. So we'll say, because you lost a kizayis of ola, or even two half kizesim, but because ola meat has the same halacha, therefore the zrika is effective. We'll say, once the zrika is effective, then what? That means the meat is subject to the laws of nosar. Nosar only devolves upon the meat, or the ability to become nosar only devolves after zrika. However, in the sosru va'achal mimenu kedamiran dvarim shein chayalam mishum pigol mishum nosar gon komishu achilas zevain v'choshkin dvarim shein mishum pigol kagon basar ola aval shlom. So we'll say, so in the case of ola, where you lost the pieces of meat prior to zrika, then you did zrika, so the meat is subject to two half kizesim, is subject to nosar. Why? Because ultimately, again, they share the same halacha. Aval shlamim, listen to this. Aval shlamim ein chatzi zayis mibsaran v'chatzi zayis mimareim mitztarfin lios shir lizrok aleim es adam to lo achilas adam ika v'lo achilas mizbeach ika. So we'll say, listen to this. However, in the case of shlamim, I will say, if you lost a half a kizayis ultimately of meat and a half a kizayis of sacrificial parts, so we'll say that now in order to do zrika, you need to be able to have at least a kizayis of sacrificial meat still in existence. If, let's say, the rest of the carbon is gone, but you have that half a kizayis of meat and half a kizayis of sacrificial part, that is not enough to do zrika on. Why not? Because those two half kizesim have two fundamentally different identities. One is consumed, and ultimately, again, one is burned. Because of that, the halacha is, because of that, they are not mitztarif. Therefore, you don't have a kizayis of sacrificial meat. Therefore, if the rest of the carbon was lost, the existence of those two half kizesim will not allow for zrika. Because zrika can't be done, therefore what? There's no chiyuv, no sar. So the Gemara says, Kid Rabbi Umani, who's opinion is this? Back to the Gemara, Rabbi Yoshua. It's Rabbi Yoshua. The sign Rabbi Yoshua Omer, Kol Zevachim shebatorah, shenishtayir behem kizayis basar. Because Rabbi Yoshua says as follows: there was a shechted a carbon, and what happens? The carcass of the animal gets lost. It gets lost. So Rabbi Yeshua says, as long as you have a kizayis of basar left on the base, ukizayis chelev, right? Actually, Rashi changes it to o kizayis chelev, right? A kizayis of, either, right? Either a kizayis of basar or a kizayis of chelev. What's the halacha? Zorek es adam. So we'll say, so the halacha is actually an interesting halacha, that if for some reason your carbon just is gone, as long as you have, as long as you have a kizayis of meat or a kizayis of chelev, zorek es adam. That ultimately again allows you to go ahead and offer up the blood. Right? It allows you to do zrika. However, chatzi zayis basar, the chatzi zayis chelev. I will say, if you only have a half a kizayis of meat and a half a kizayis of chelev, so then what's the halacha? Eino zorek es adam. I will say the halacha is you cannot sprinkle the blood. You can't do zrika. Now look at Rashi for just a moment. Actually, you don't have to look at Rashi. Sorry. So, however, again, what's the exception to this rule? Uba'ola chati zayis basar v'chati zayis chelev zorik es adam mipnei shekula kalil. And again, I just want to point out this statement of Rabbi Yoshua is halacha lemaisa, and this is what we've been driving at this entire time. That I will say, when it comes to an ola, however, if you do have a half a kizayis of blood and a half a kizayis of chelev, then what? We'll say those are mitzvah. Those do combine. Why? Mipnei shekula kalil. Because I will say, when it comes to an ola, the entire animal has the same din, which is it is burnt on the mizbeach. Because of that, half a kizayis of the meat and half a kizayis ultimately of the sacrificial imurin have the ability to combine. So we'll say, this is a very, very, very important halacha. So we'll say, again, remember, the way we started with this is because the Mishnah itself says that if you offer it up for shchutei chutz purposes, if you offer it up outside of the Beis Hamikdash, a kizayis of the ola and the imur, which means a half a kizayis of the meat of the ola and a half a kizayis of the sacrificial parts. So we'll say, what's the halacha? The halacha is your chayiv. The Gemara said, that's interesting. It sounds like dafka ola yes, shlamim no. To which the Gemara says, correct. Why the difference? Because I will say, when it comes to ola, that the entire animal is subject to the same halacha, which is burning on the mizbeach. So you can have a half a kizayis of the meat and a half a kizayis of the fat, so the sacrificial parts can combine to form a kizayis of ola. Masha'in came by shlamim rabosai, where the meat has one din, i.e. consumption. The sacrificial parts have a different din, i.e. burning on the mizbeach. They don't combine. The Gemara just says this all stems from the din of Rabbi Yoshua, because Rabbi Yoshua will say, even before we get to shchutei chutz, this is a din in zrika, an interesting halacha which we're learning today, which is that if for some reason your carbon disappears, you don't have the animal anymore, as long as Rabbi Yoshua, as long as you have a kizayis of sacrificial meat left, that enables you to do zrika. I will say, why is zrika important? Because once you do zrika, then what? You've satisfied your obligation. So even though again I don't have the animal, I don't have the carcass, I can't eat it, but l'maisa again I want to be able to do zrika. So when can you do zrika? So Rabbi Yeshua says, as long as there is a kizayis of basar or of chelev. But if you have a half a kizayis of basar, half a kizayis of chelev, it's not mitzarif, except in the case of what? Except in the case of ola. The Gemara says, umincha afilu kula kayemes lo yizrok. So we'll say, but by a mincha, even if all of it is intact, you can't do zrika. To which the Gemara says, what? Mincha ma'avidite. What do you mean zrika by mincha, we'll say? Right? Again, zrika is a din in animal offerings because there's blood. What kind of zrika is there by mincha? Amar papa, minchas nesachim haba im hazevach. Or talking about over here is a mincha offering that is brought together with an animal sacrifice. So we'll say if you have the following case. Let's say you have an animal sacrifice that has an accompanying mincha with it. The meat, the animal disappears. You have nothing left of the animal. It just disappears. But what is still intact? The carbon mincha, to which the Gemara says that's fine, but that does not allow for the zrika of the blood. So as I say, even so, in order you need at least the kizayis of the meat in order to be able to do the zrika. If the animal in its entirety disappears and all you have left is the mincha, that will not allow for zrika. Good. We'll say that is indeed halacha l'maisa. Says the Mishnah. Weiter. Hakometz v'halavona v'aktora. So we'll say still more things. So kometz, which remember again is the 3 fingerfuls of the mincha, levona, the frankincense. We actually quoted this Mishnah before. Kitores, incense, minchas kohanim, a mincha brought by Kohen Rosh, which is totally burnt on the mizbeach. Minchas kohen Mashiach, which is the daily mincha of the Kohen Gadol. Minchas nesachim. So we'll say, or the mincha of nesachim, shehikriv me'achas mehen kizayis b'chutz. We'll say, if you offered up a kizayis of any of these items outside of the Beis Hamikdash, chayiv. The halacha is your chayiv. So we'll say, what the Mishnah now is introducing me is to what? We already learned this in the Brisa before. What is introducing me to me? That the din of kizayis of shchutei chutz does not just apply to animal offerings, but applies to all types of sacrificial items as well. But remember, common denominator amongst all these items just mentioned is what? They're not animals. They're not animals, yet still subject to the laws of shchutei chutz. As long as you just go and offer up a kizayis. Rabbi Eliezer poter ad sheyakiv es kulan. Rabbi Eliezer says, no, you're going to be poter until you offer it up in its entirety. So I will say, what's the nekudas hamachlokes over here? The nekudas hamachlokes is it enough just to offer up a kizayis of these items? Or do we say that in order to be chayiv, you have to offer up the item in its entirety? Tanakama says kizayis is enough, just like other shchutei chutz, or this is not the case of shchutei chutz, but ha'alos chutz, offering up on the outside. Rabbi Eliezer says, no, you have to offer up the item in its entirety, ultimately to be chayiv. The kulon, shekriv bifnim, vishabos, listen to this last case. And all of these items, shekriv bifnim, we'll say all of these items which were offered up inside the Beis Hamikdash, v'shir mehen kizayis, v'kriva b'chutz, chayiv. Well, so it's actually very interesting. Let's say in all of these cases, Rabbi say, where the item was properly offered up inside the Beis HaMikdash. But what? Shi'er mehen kizayis, but you left over a kizayis of the item, vekrivu b'chutz, and you went ahead and you offered it up outside of the Beis HaMikdash, chayiv. So what's the novelty in this case? The novelty in this case is what? The carbon was done appropriately. It was done inside the Beis HaMikdash. It was just a kizayis of sacrificial matter left over. You then went ahead and offered that up outside of the Beis HaMikdash. What's the halacha? You're chayiv. V'kulan shechasru kolshu v'kriva b'chutz pater. I will say in any of these cases, and again we're going to define what all of this means. In any of these cases where the carbon became deficient, v'kriva b'chutz, and you offered it up outside of the Beis HaMikdash, pater. One will be pater. Hamakriv kachim ve'imurim b'chutz chayiv. If one goes and offers up kachim and a murin, so kachim also means the karbanos, a murin, the sacrificial parts, ultimately again will be chayiv. If you look at Rashi, the last Rashi in the Mishnah, which is about 3 lines up from 4 lines up from 4, the lines get wide. Rashi says, "Hamalek kachim ve'imurehen shehikriv abasar ve'imurin mechubarin bo chayim shemurin." They will say if you went ahead and you offered up the meat and the imurin connected together, one will be chayiv ultimately for offering up a murin. Fine. So let's see what all this means. So tell Rabbi, we'll say now we have a brisa. What does the brisa say? Hamaktir kizayis. Actually, the Shita Mikubetis changes this to Hamaktir kizayis kitores b'chutz. Excuse me. Hamaktir kizayis kitores b'chutz. If one goes and offers up a kizayis of kitores outside of the Beis HaMikdash, chayiv. One is chayiv for that. However, chatzi pras bifnim pater. If one offered up, we'll say what we call chatzi pras. Now, chatzi pras, if you look at Rashi, chatzi pras bifnim, lav davka chatzi pras denaket, to add in the kizayis ela, pachos mikashir hechsher mitzvasa nakat. So we'll say if one offered up a half a pras, let's assume for a moment, by the way, that what that means for our purposes is less than the requisite shear for kitoras. So if one offered up a half a pras is a measurement, a half a pras of kitoras inside the Beis HaMikdash, one will be pater. So we'll say 2 halachas over here. If you offer up a kizayis of kitoras outside of the Beis HaMikdash, you will be chayiv. A half a pras of kitoras inside the Beis HaMikdash, you will be pater. So the Gemara says, now what is that? We're focusing on the second statement first. My pater. So what does that mean if I offer up a half a pras of kitoras inside the Beis HaMikdash? I am pater. My pater zar. So what that sounds like over here is what? That if a non-Kohen offered up a half a pras of kitoras inside the Beis HaMikdash, he will be pater. We'll say, what does it mean he'll be pater? In other words, he won't be chayiv misa for offering up kitoras because he didn't offer up the right shear. So amai, but why is that? Even if he didn't offer up the right shear, still amai haktarihi. We'll say at the end of the day, you have a case of a non-Kohen who went ahead and offered up kitoras. Just because it's not the requisite shear, he should still be chayiv for that. My pater. No, what does pater mean? Pater tzibur. We'll say this is very interesting. What it means is that tzibur is pater. We'll say, what does that mean? Take a look at Rashi. Third of the intermediate wide lines. My pater tzibur. The yatsi dechavasan tikizayis hav yahaktara. Let's listen to this. That even though ideally the halach is you're supposed to offer up a pras of kitoras, a larger measurement. If you offered up a half a pras, right, the tzibur fulfilled its obligation of kitoras. Why, Rabbi say? Because a half a pras is more than a kizayis, and apparently a kizayis is the minimum measurement ultimately for kitoras offering. We'll say, where do we see that a kizayis is the minimum measurement for kitoras offering? Where do we see that? Because of bachutz. Because what did the Brisa say in the beginning? Hamaktir kizayis bachutz chayiv. Remember again, these are two sides of the same coin. Whatever you're going to be chayiv for doing outside of the Beis HaMikdash, usually means what? That's the amount of avod that's going to work inside the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, again, if halacha lamaisa, I am going to be chayiv for offering up a kizayis of kitoras outside of the Beis HaMikdash, that must mean that what? That the minimum amount of kitoras necessary to fulfill my obligation inside the Beis HaMikdash is in fact a kizayis. Therefore, if the Kohen offers up a half a pras, which is less than the prescribed amount, but still more than a kizayis, the tzibur is pater, i.e. the tzibur has fulfilled its obligation of kitoras. So Rabbi Zeri says, okay, I kashali ha kashali. The truth is, but that I have if you're going to say this, I have the following question. Had amarav, Hadamar Rav Allah. So we'll say, I should say, Hadamar Rav, but Rav said, Allah, regarding this, Baha Afilu Rabbi Eliezer Modeh. Yet Rabbi say over here, the Gemara says that even what? In this case, even Rabbi Eliezer will agree. So the Gemara says, but here's the problem. Daha Rabbi Eliezer Lav Haktari Ka'amar. Rabbi say, remember again, what did Rabbi Eliezer say? Rabbi Eliezer said in the Mishnah that Halocha Lamaisa, you see, remember, the Tanakama said that if you offer up a Kizayis of Kitoris outside of the basement, it should be Chayiv. What did Rabbi Eliezer say? Rabbi Eliezer said, you're not going to be chayiv until when? What did Rabbi Eliezer say in the Mishnah? Rabbi Eliezer poter, achi yakriv es kulan. Rabbi Eliezer said, no, you're not chayiv for a kizayis of kitores outside of the base of Mikdash. You will only be chayiv if you offer up the entire measure. So it seems to be Rabbi Eliezer holds that if you're only going to be chayiv ultimately for offering up the entire measure outside of the base of Mikdash, that means what? That inside the base of Mikdash, you should only discharge your Ketaros obligation of Hatar Basai if you offer up the entire pras. But if you offer up a Chatzi pras, or for that matter, you offer up a Kizayis, you should not discharge your obligation inside the base of Mikdash. Let's say, look at Rashi for just a moment. First wide line of the widest lines. The Padre Tzibor. So we'll say, even Rabbi Eliezer says, in the Mishnah, that in order to be chayiv for offering it up achutz, you have to offer up the entire pras of Ketores. Yet we're saying over here that he agrees with the Tana of the Braisa. That's what? That if the Tzibor just offered up a chatzi pras, that they would be chayiv. So how does that work? Rabba says, Baktara deheichal dekuli amalo pligi. So Rabba says, okay, let's clarify what we're talking about. In the Haktara, in the Ketores offering Rabosai, that was done every day inside the Beis Hamikdash. The general incense offering that was done on the Mizbeach Hazav, the golden altar inside the Beis Hamikdash. Everyone agrees. No one argues. We'll say now, what does it mean? No one argues. Look at Rashi. So Amar Baktara de Behechol Shebechol Yom Shalom Ne'emar Boshir V'Hai Prashir D'Rabbananu Mod Rabbi Eliezer de Bekizayis Havi Aktara L'Chayiv Ale B'Chutz. So we'll say, listen to this. So the Gemara says, everyone agrees in the case of the daily incense offering of Mosai, the Torah does not give a shear for that offering. The Rabbanon said, you have to offer up a pras. You have to offer up a pras. But everyone agrees that what? That bidi evet, if you just offered up a kizayis, that you will be yotzei the daily Ketoras offering. So where's the machlokes? Ki pligi baktar dipnim. We'll say, where's the machlokes? The machlokes is on the Ketoras offering of Yom Kippur, which was done inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Mar Savar, one opinion holds, when it comes to that incense offering, the Torah tells us how much incense do you have to offer? Milo chafnav. We'll say Milo chafnav means 2 handfuls. 2 handfuls. So the Gemara says, Mar Savar Milo chafnav dafka. One opinion says, this says that what? Melo chafnav means what? Rabosai means you have to offer 2 handfuls, and if you will offer less than 2 handfuls, then what's the halacha? You're not yotzei. Umar savar melo chafnav lo dafka. And the other opinion says, no, melo chafnav Rabosai is just the shear. That's the amount ideally you're supposed to offer. But even if you offered less than that, ultimately, again, you're still yotzei. Amali Abaye vaha ki ksiva chuka baktar de bipnim huksiv. So Abai says it can't be Rabosai, because the Torah, when it talks about the incense offering of Yom Kippur, which is done inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it uses the word chukah. Rabosai, chukah means an everlasting statute. Everlasting statute, Rabosai, means that the details are explicit and must be adhered to as they are written, which means that if it says Melo Chafnav means what? Means Melo Chafnav. You have to bring 2 handfuls. Rather, Ela Amra Abai Baktara Pifnim Kuli Amalo Pligi. Rather, we'll say Abai is a little bit differently. Abai says when it comes to the offering of the incense inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim Yom Kippur, everyone agrees that what? You need the entire shear of Melo Chafnav, both handfuls. So keep pligi, we'll say. So where do they argue? Keep pligi baktara d'chutz. We'll say what they ultimately argue on, we'll say, is the daily offering of Ketores, which is done, they call it chutz. Chutz also means outside of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, inside the Heichal by the golden altar. Mar savar yafinon pnim mechutz. So one opinion says that we learn out pnim mechutz. We learn out the inner offering from the outer offering. Umar Sara lo yafinon. And Rabbi say ultimately again the other opinion says no, we do not learn them out one from the other. So that says the Gemara, I don't understand. Amar Rava, hashta chutz michutz lo yalfi. Rabbanon, pnim michutz mi boy. So Rabbi says, I don't understand. If we don't learn out chutz michutz, right? How can you say we learn out pnim michutz? What does this mean? Mahi, this sanya. But here we go. Yochal hama'ale pachos mikizayis kometz upachos mikizayis emurin. So I might have thought that if one offers up outside of the base of Mikdash a half of less than a kizayis of a kometz, or less than a kizayis of a murin, or a menasech pachos mishlosha lugiyayin, or you offer up, you do a libation of less than 3 lugin of wine, or pachos migimol lugin mayim, or less than 3 lugin of water, yechayiv. I would have thought it would be chayiv. Talmud lomar la'asos. Therefore, the pasuk says la'asos ala shalim chayiv ve'inu chayiv ala chaser. Ultimately, again, you are only chayiv, Rabosai, if you go ahead and you offer up outside of the base of Mikdash the full measure, but not if you offer up less than the full measure. I v'hapachos mishloshas lugin disbukame zeisim v'lo yalfi rabbanon chutz michutz. Yet Rabosai, if you look at the case of shloshas lugin, there's certainly many kizeisim in that shloshas lugin. Yet what? It is not enough. Ela amar Rava. Rather, Rava says, we'll say, what's the case where they argue? And we'll stop over here for today, but we'll pick up with this tomorrow. Kigon dekav inhu shnei chatzoi pras bimana. We'll say the interesting case the Gemara wants to suggest that is the point of contention is where they take 2 half prasin, right? Remember again, the full shear of kitoras is a pras of kitoras. The Gemara is suggesting, I will say that the machlokes case is where you take 2 half pras measurements and you place them in the same utensil. Top of Kuf Yud, Mar Savar Kavius Mana Milsihi, or Mar Savar Lav Milsihi. We'll say one opinion says that the placement of the 2 half pras measurements in one kli, the fact that they are in one kli, we'll say what does that do? That unites the 2 half prasin into one pras, and the other opinion says no. Even though they're in the same kli, being in the same kli does not unite them as one pras measurement. But we'll say, look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says, last Rashi on Kuf test, with this we'll stop. So we'll say, ultimately, again, the Mishnah is talking about a case where we're offering up the Ketores inside the Beis HaMikdash. Umishum hachi katani la bebraisa chay. Rabbi Lozer modeba kederav uplug to the masisi gegon de kave de kulish nechatzayin pras memana. But the machlokes of the Mishnah says where you took the 2 half prasin and you put them in one kli. Top of Kuf Yud and Rashi. We'll finish with this. The kasar Rabbi Lozer kviyusa demana milsihi hoil v'nasan shnei chatzai pras bekli haktoras heichal kave mana v'ichaser kol shehu mifsal. Hilchach b'chutz lo mechayiv ad sheyakriv es kulo v'rabbanan savri kviusa demana lav klumo. So we'll say Rabbi Lazar will hold that placing the 2 half prasim in one utensil establishes them as one pras measurement, and the Rabbanan hold the kli does not unite. Rabbi Lazar will stop over here. We'll pick up with this tomorrow.